500 to 600 people. That if you could change your business with about 600 people a year, having a much solid impact, because I was talking about the opportunity of impressions on people and reach and engagements. And he told me I was crazy that 600 people would impact his business. Well, most restaurants, as David just showed you, run on small margins, don't analyze their margins correctly. There's a lot of things in there. So I'll show you this in a second, but the one thing I find out all the time is that most marketing that businesses do for your company, you're spending to drive sales. Every one of your efforts are commercials that are trying to get somebody to come buy something. And if you consistently spend your marketing to get people to come buy something, you have to consistently reach back out to those people where you found them, whether it's radio or TV or direct mail or a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad or YouTube, whatever it is. If that effort was used along that bottom path to get people to come spend money with you, you skip the most important part, which is their data. And I talked about earlier getting frequent, getting new, getting lost, find out their name, their phone number, and birthday, and all that good stuff. But kind of just an example, and I'm in the process of writing my next book, and this is an excerpt from it, part of it in there. I was trying to walk through people, but I made this little last line today because somebody asked me for my example of how 600 customers work. So I'll give you a quick impression, quick thing here. And this is just 100% email. Because at the end of the day, if Barleycorns, as I mentioned, has more impressions on Matt Plapp annually, on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, their website, their sign out front, their radio commercials, their billboards, whatever the hell it is, if Barleycorns reaches me on a much more consistent basis, I will eat more wings. It's just a fact. You don't have to be a rocket science. I cheated my ass off in school, and I still could figure that out. But the problem is a lot of people want, oh, proof. I want to know that it increased my sales. It impacted my sales. So what I looked at was I was kind of looking through and I was analyzing some stuff for my new book. It's called Attract, Build, Retain. And the concept of it is how to attract more attention, how to get more engagement, how to retain more attention. And so I was making a quick example, top of this thing. I'll blow this up a little more. Increase the size of this bad boy. There we go. Is that easier to read? So if you've got an email list, I'm going to go through two things here. Number one, if you have a bigger list of people to talk to, which is a key element. And number two, if you have a better tactic of talking to people. So number one, if you've got a list size of 1,000 people, really easy for most restaurants to get 1,000 people. If you email those people on a consistent basis weekly, you're talking to them every week, you've got 52,000 sends. So annually, 52,000 times, your message is arriving in somebody's inbox. Traditionally, people that do that type of tactic, the same crap every week to the same audience, end up at about an industry average of 10% open rate. 10% open rate means you had 5,200 people open your emails. 1%'s a decent click because the click is typically asking them something lame like, hey, click here to see our menu. Click here to order online. There's no hardcore call to action that really resonates with them. So at the end of the year, you've gotten 5,200 people to open something. You've got 52 people to click. You've got 5,252 impressions. Now, there might be some more impressions in there because somebody didn't open your email and they saw it in the inbox. Again, this is just email. This isn't counting your in-store, your texting, your website, everything else you're getting impressions. This is one example. So my thought process is, what if you do two things dramatically different here? What if, number one, you stop using your marketing money to drive sales and you use it to build a list? And so now your email list goes from 1,000 to 10,000. It's not hard. Michael, you said you've got like 8,000 people? And you've been open how many years? Yeah, from another place. So he's got, most restaurants can accumulate a list of 5 to 10 to 15. I've seen some one location restaurants with 15 to 20,000 people on a list because everywhere they go, they ask. They're at a football game at Ryle. Scan this code to get on our list. They're at their website. They're online ordering. Everywhere they go, they're getting people to give them their information. So let's say you have a decent list. You have 10,000 people. And let's say instead of burning the shit out of your list, you email them every other week. So now you've got, I'm missing a zero there, 260,000 annual sends because you got 26 weeks times 10,000 people. So you've got 260,000 people instead of 52,000. You get an open rate of 20%. if my math is correct, you're close to 52,000 opens. You get a click-through rate of 2%. Still not that great. You're getting double the people to take an action. You've got 520 clicks. Is that right? Seems right. I don't know. Maybe it isn't. Secondary clicks. What is a secondary click? If you do the right call to actions, you get people to take an extra action. You click like the email we showed with Mother's Day. They go to Facebook. They then comment. So you're getting people to do something else. Total impressions, you're at 52,000 impressions. Now, this is just one little generic action. An email list that's larger, an email list that's used a little less frequently, an email list that's used in a different manner versus come by from our restaurant. And so I had this guy call me on the carpet today and said, Matt, I don't believe your number that 600 customers, 500 to 600 customers makes an impact. And so when I looked at it, I said, okay, I want you to imagine this. On an annual basis, of those 10,000 people, all you've got to do is impact 600 people in a much more meaningful way. That's not a big number. It's a small number. If you can get 200 of those people, where'd my list go there? Oh, I got a number wrong. It's supposed to be 5, my bad. Math. That fingered it. You can get 200 of those people on your email list out of 10,000 to engage in your brand at a much higher rate and like your brand more and do stuff. Go to Facebook, go to Instagram, go to your website, go to online ordering. That's 1,000 visits a year. So 200 people. Walt's Hitching Post, the example I use all the time. If they can get 200 people, instead of going 5 times a year, to go 10 times a year, it's an extra 1,000 visits. Not a huge deal. If I were to go to Barleycorns 5 times a year, I could go to your place 5 times more a year. It's not a big deal. It's not that hard. You get 200 people of those 10,000 to go 10 times a year. Now, once a month, they're making an incremental visit that wasn't planned because of something. Yesterday, I had Better Blend for lunch. You know why? Because I was thinking about ordering Better Blend today for this event. And I went, oh, that sounds good today. So I went there. It was an impression. Their brand made an impression on me for a different reason. I had this event. Where do I want to order? Sandwiches, something a little different, Better Blend. I went and ate it. One more visit that wasn't happening had I not thinking about Better Blend for this event. And that's how you can influence people's decisions. So you get 200 people, 10 more visits, 2,000 visits. Again, I'm assuming my math is right. It's always terrible on my end. But then you've got 200 more people who now become harder core. Because some of these people, you look at this, we talked about new, frequent, lost. What we typically find is that when you build a list correctly, you get about 30 to 40% of the people are brand new. You get about 30 to 40% of the people are frequent, and then you get those 10 to 20% of people are lost. And so you're going to get 200 people that had never been to Dairy Dream before to go, holy shit, this place is awesome. I'm going to come here every week. That's 52 visits they had never been. So these are averages. So if you look at these numbers and you add those up, 1,000 visits, 2,000 visits, 3,000 visits, that's 6,000 visits. Michael, you've got a calculator. What's 6,000 times 20 bucks? What's the average check at Taco Lulu? 22. What's 22 visits times, $22 times 6,000 visits? Bless you. 132,000. So 132,000, and you've got to assume, because we know the numbers, that let's say 70% of that is incremental visits. They weren't happening. They weren't coming. They had already come on their way, but you figured out a way to get them impacted a little more. They engaged in Facebook more often, Instagram more often, your website, whatever. You just drove $100,000. What David Scott just told us was that you've got a 30% food cost ballpark. So that means that that restaurant, for impacting 600 people, just drove home $70,000 in profit. Am I right, David? There's nothing else associated with it. Your rent's paid for, your electric, your manpower's there, all that good stuff. And so what I always tell people that it doesn't take a huge task to make that impact. That's what I'm talking about, because we gain when we market for businesses, and this isn't a sales pitch, but this is just the fact that when we market for businesses, on a bad month with no help in the restaurant, we get 500 to 700 people online to give the restaurant their name, phone, or email. You've seen thousands of them. They give us the information. So now we just got to know how to use the data better. And that's just email. And then you got text message. Then you got Messenger. And you got Facebook. And you got Instagram. And you got Instagram DMs. And you got website. You got online ordering. You got all these places you can make an impact. That all you've got to do with all of that universe is get 600 people to change their habit and come once more every other month. Come once every other month or every month. Come once every 3 weeks that they weren't coming. And you've got $70,000 in net profit. The only way that happens, though, is that if you're not spending money to consistently reach them. So when I go back to this slide, this is why I'm adamant on the value of a database. And the ABR is attract, build, retain. That if all the time you're marketing, you're spending money to drive sales, you're skipping the most important part, which is the way to get their attention more often. That if I build that list of 10,000 people and I say, you know what, I'm stopping today, I'm not getting going. If there are any more people, I'm just going to market to all these 10,000 and not worry about adding anybody new. You're going to impact your sales. Like I told a restaurant the other day, he said, Matt, can you guarantee this tactic will increase my sales? I said, well, no, because I don't know how bad of an operator you are. I can impact your sales from this angle, but the pandemic can decrease your sales. Your poor quality of food and service and you know, how clean or dirty the restaurant is can impact your sales. You know, I can't say I can increase, but I can tell you that if you consistently spend your money and effort to build a database, and then you use that database in the correct manner on a consistent plan, all you've got to do is influence 600 people. Let's just say it's 50 to 60 grand instead of 70. I think any restaurant at the end of the year, if they had 50 grand more on 600 people, could either bonus their people or one, maybe pay themselves correctly, or two, maybe reinvest in their business to have better bathrooms or cleaner environments, or maybe not try and wash the windows themselves like I did yesterday on last minute. But you can tell that's the value of hiring a pro because the windows upstairs are clean because Mela did them. Matt Plapp did those. So that's another example. I was thinking that when I was sitting here thinking about this. But my whole goal of this, at the end of this, was to talk about the value of a database because I think it's the number one asset that businesses don't work on enough. And I see it all the time. I see restaurants and I see small businesses all the time buying advertising that leads people nowhere. It leads them to one night stands of marketing. And my whole concept is, hey, if we can take every single tactic that we use on the front end, money that we spend, effort we spend to drive that database, and then once we use that database correctly, don't hammer every week, we can do it. And from my standpoint, doing that to influence those 600 people isn't rocket science. Especially when you look at different areas around all the restaurants, especially look at like Michael's restaurant in downtown Chicago. 600 people, I mean, that's one apartment building. It's like if I could spray paint the apartment building and be Taco Lulu's apartment building, you'd impact 600 people. So that's the goal that I want you all to think about. That is the end of what we're talking about today. Our first event in the books here. Hopefully we'll keep getting better and better. You guys got a copy of the book. If you don't have it, make sure you get mine. Get David's book. That's all we got, boys and girls. Thank y'all. Dude, those bowls are delicious. I never knew acai could be so good. I don't even know what acai is. It sounds fancy. So I'm going to trust it's nutritious. It's better than Lucky Charms, even though Lucky Charms are delicious. In the kitchen. Okay. I know where you went. I think we're going to do anything. We're going to go over